present here and we welcome you to IEEE MPSTME Presents Women in Tech. I'm Nirali Kapli, the Vice Chair at IEEE, and with me I have Hem Thakkar, who's the Corporate Relations Head. So Hem, you can go ahead.
So, hi guys, I'm Hem Thakkar, Head of Corporate Relations at IEEE MPSTL. Today we have with us three panelists, Dr. Sujata Rao, Ms. Kashish Madan, and Ms. Diya Purkasa. Dr. Sujata Rao is an ENT specialist, having educated from KEM and Sir JJ Hospital. She is practicing since 1997 and is attached to Holy Spirit Hospital located at Nandavi East.
Yeah, so Hem, you can start by introducing Sujata, ma'am.
All right. So, Dr. Sujata Rao is an ENT specialist, having educated from KEM and Sir JJ Hospital. She is practicing since 1997 and is attached to Holy Spirit Hospital located at Andheri East. She is also a past president of Association of Medical Consultants and at present a trustee of the same organization. She has to her credit several academic papers and publications like Smart Mantras for Rational Medical Practice. Now introducing Ms. Kashish Madan. She's an intern at American Express and is working in the Big Data Technology Unit. She'll be soon joining Microsoft as she graduates this year from Manipal University at Jaipur with a BTech degree in computer science. She has an experience working as a software developer with various organizations such as Grant Thornton University, Grenoble Alpes, France, and more. Kashish was also a recipient of the AnitaB.org Grace Hopper Celebration, India Scholarship, and was also featured in the Everyday Inspiration series. She has participated. Angad, I guess there's a bit of an echo over here. All right. So she has participated and mentored students in various hackathons and open source events. Outside of work, she has been an active speaker at various webinars and events on topics such as open source, women in technology, grabbing internships, and resume building. Now, Nirali will be talking about the upper class.
So we also have with us on panel today Ms. Diya Purkayasta, who is a consulting tech analyst at E&Y. She was also involved in a lot of social media marketing and creative writing along with doing her research and development. Not only that, Diya is also the recipient of the Economic Times Award for the Campus Star in the year 2019-20, and she is also the founder of Project Visho that Enactus. So now we'll be starting with the panel discussion. If any of the participants have any questions, they can put it down in the chat box and we'll address the same.
So I'd like to ask the first question to Dr. Sujata Rao. Being an ENT specialist, what types of medical software have you used to document your work? Dr. Sujata Rao.
Yeah, thanks. So first of all, I would like to thank the organization for inviting me for this event. It was indeed a privilege to address to students and very well planned, I should say. So for coming to answer your first question, uh, how do we use technology in ENT mind specialty? So there are various aspects. One is the clinic software and one is the practical application. So I would come to the practical application first. See, ear, nose, throat surgery is a very, if I can take 2 minutes, is that okay?
Sure. Take it up.
Yeah. It is a field where technology is really required because we are operating in micro environments. If you see the nose, ear, and throat, we are operating in the ear in 2 by 2 millimeter square box. So we require a microscope and we require an endoscope for the nose and the sinus surgery. So if you will allow me to share screen, I can show you the photographs so you will have a idea as to how technology has helped us to. So Hen, can you allow me permission? Because I
Yeah,
think you will have to give me permission to share.
yeah. Angad, please do the same.
I am not getting the link.
So ma'am, on the right corner of your screen, you'll see a button, present now, or there'll be three dots. Even if you click on that, there'll be an option, present now.
Now.
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Yes.
So your entire screen. Okay, that's better. Pardon me for the minute that I'm
No
taking
problem.
to get. So can you see anything now? I think I may not be able to share. It doesn't look like. So if I say a tab, I can just click on a tab, no? Basically.
Yeah, but we cannot see your screen right now.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So I will get back to it whenever I can. Meanwhile, let me tell you that for the endoscopic sinus surgery as well as the micro ear surgery or for the microlaryngeal, what we call the voice, vocal cords. All these surgeries are not done by naked eye. They are done with the microscope. And when you are peering through the microscope, your vision, your posture, your assessment, all are limited. But when you see the same image on the screen, big screen, you automatically get a very clear view, a clear, play of
Mhm.
field of view. You are operating precision changes, you are operating detailing changes, and your results change. So it helps us to give a good result. And ear, nose, throat surgery cannot do without this type of technology intervention today. And it is a real pleasure to do a precise, surgery. So this is about the surgical aspect. Now there are
Correct.
office procedures. Office procedures are one where if person comes with just a plain voice issue or pain in the throat or swallow, something suggestive of cancer of your mouth or
Mhm.
your inside larynx.
Yeah.
Now you can't subject every patient to anesthesia for a scopy examination.
Right.
So here again, technology comes to our rescue because we can do office endoscopy procedures, and that can be done in the OPD itself with a small spray, and the patient and the relatives can see the video in front of them, and they are convinced about what is their problem. So this
Right.
particular conviction is very important when the patient accepts the diagnosis and then also cooperates with the treatment. So this is in short about the clinical aspect where technology helps. The second
Correct.
aspect, as you said, is software. Now there are
Hmm.
clinic management software and hospital management software. So how do they help is the software allows us data feeding. Now what we are doing before the technology came in, is we were writing our letterheads, or we were creating carbon copies, or we were creating Xerox, so whatever it is. But today there is no such need to maintain a hard copy. And mind you, the documentation record is very important for medical legal purposes. So what
Mhm.
we can do is just enter in the software, and this software allows us to have a record of all our past patients, to have a research based on the complaints, based on our treatment findings, based on the complaints, to see whether which treatment and what is the majority of patients showing feedback and what is the majority of patients responding to this particular treatment. and what is the percentage of people presenting with specific complaint. So this is the clinic management software. For hospital management, of course, you know there are various fields where it is required, where the hospital management can take care of the patient data, the ID according to which the case papers are unfolded, the investigations are unfolded, and the treatment regimes can be updated daily by different consultants. And you need not have to resort to a particular nursing or a doctor assistant to be checking on the records, because once fed properly, they are not going to change unless there is a security issue. So this is the way the software helps. And of course, there are other things where in a hospital setting, like in Holy Spirit, when we can view the X-ray of a patient immediately. So when a patient goes to the radiology department, there is a connection to our PC monitor in the OPD, and we can view the X-ray. So this is a real-time sharing of information and investigations, which helps. I have forgotten about one thing, which is a CT scan. The CT scan today, as you all know, in COVID, it really helps. And you get the images and decide the diagnosis. So more of it afterwards. This is what I feel is employed technology. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So my next question is to Kashish. What I wanted to ask you is what makes you excited about big data, and if you can elaborate a little more about your internship at American Express.
Thanks for inviting me, and hello everyone. So basically, as we almost covered, I'm a big data intern at American Express. And you know what basically excites me is the fact that we are actually helping customers. You know, being a part of any company in the world, if you're helping your customers, you're actually, obtaining self-satisfaction, you're actually growing together. So what basically happens is American Express sits on the middle of the entire transaction industry. You know, be it with businesses, be it with the customers, we have millions of transactions happening. We have a lot of data coming in. So with this data, we actually need to, maybe like detect frauds, maybe like prevent something, and maybe use this data to our benefit. So this entire, the data is our heart of our operation, and being an intern at American Express and sitting at the heart of the entire company is one of the most, I think, coolest things ever. So being an engineer myself, I believe like we get a magic wand in our hand. You know, we can create anything we want to, whichever is something. If something is in our mind, I have the ability to create it, for the entire world, which is what is basically happening. So I'll just brief you a little bit about what I am currently doing. So what happens is we have a lot of systems running, we have a lot of database systems running on, and this entire database is basically one particular application or one particular code base. So once we have to make another change, or once we have to change something, we have to redeploy the entire code again and again for all those changes. And even like if I need to change some technology, or if a new developer is coming on, we have to explain to them the entire code base. So like as the technology is advancing, we have a new thing called microservices, which will actually allow us to divide this entire application into various segments, so that if one segment fails, the other ones keep on working. So as an intern, I've got the opportunity to work on that. I'll be continuing with that. And I think it gives a brief gist of what is basically happening at American Express. We have a lot of other fields like credit and fraud risk. We have other interns related to business. So I think American Express kind of has a lot of things, but as an engineer, I think I'm blessed to be in the big data.
That's great. So him.
All right. Yeah. So my next question is for Dia. Dia, could you please tell us more about how you became an Economic Times campus star, and what role did technology play in it? You're muted, Dia.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for inviting me here. Yeah. So it was actually a great experience. So for those who don't know what Economic Times Campus Stars is, I'll give a little bit of background. So ET Campus Stars is an initiative taken by Economic Times. It is basically India's largest hunt for the brightest engineering minds of the country. So Economic Times Campus Stars is divided into 4 main phases, and it's very exhaustive. So the first phase is the aptitude phase, where you are given certain MCQs based on math, language, and a few coding questions as well. Then the second round is based on domain knowledge. So it will test you on your technical expertise. You will have MCQs where you're supposed to know about your the technical expertise stuff which you're doing. The third round will be a group leadership activity as well as a fun team building activity. And the fourth round is the final and the fourth round is a one-on-one interaction with a jury. And the jury will consist of a CEO or CXO of an eminent company. In my case, it was Kotak General Insurance. So you say, how is technology involved? So technology was involved mainly in the first two rounds, which was aptitude and domain knowledge. Both of these were conducted online, and we actually had an invigilator monitoring us via the camera on our laptops. So that was there. And as well as it was involved in the fourth round as well. So the CEO who interviewed me, he asked me about current technologies, what's going on in the world. So we have to keep ourselves updated constantly. Even women empowerment was a main topic which he asked me about. And apart from that, I was asked a lot of puzzles, problem solving, etc. So I'll tell you how to ace this. So the key point is to be yourself. Just show a lot of confidence. What they look for is they look for leadership skills, and they also test you for all-roundedness and how quick you are at attempting whatever they ask. Your quick thinking comes into play here. So just do everything confidently and be genuine, be yourself throughout. And this will help you clear all the rounds. So it's not very difficult. I think all of you can do it as long as you all have some faith in yourselves and show some confidence. And trust me, it's not only a great learning experience, but throughout you also get to interact with like-minded peers, and it's lovely. Like you get to interact with CEOs and CXOs at such a great level, as well as you make a lot of friends on the way. So yeah, I'd say that much about it.
Glad to know all this.
So now we'll start with some general questions in which we'll be asking some things and wanting to know all of your view on the same. So our first question would be, what has been your favorite part of your program or your academic career, which you'll like always remember that this has been a milestone to my journey till now? So we can start with Sujata ma'am. We can start with you.
You want to know the milestones in my journey to become a doctor?
Yeah, so like what has been your favorite part of your program or thing which you remember like always?
First milestone will always be, admission to St. GS Medical College and KVM Hospital in 1985, because that was based on merit, and in those times we didn't have NEET exams, and we didn't have all the insecurities and uncertainties which you students are facing nowadays. So we are very grateful that we got the best institution I got at my first shot, and that would be my milestone. Okay, so what is so treasurable is that we learned very good foundation of medicine in KEM. All the subjects were taught by dedicated teachers. All the groundwork which was done of our becoming a doctor was done exceptionally well. And whether it was anatomy or whether it was biochemistry or whether it was physiology, and it was it was a amazing experience because you learn the basic mechanisms of the body, and you admire the way we are created, or the body mechanisms work on its own without having any interventions of technology, let me tell you. So it is a miracle of sorts that our body functions normally. Please remember, any abnormalities are very, very rare, or a very percentage-wise minuscule percentage. But on a majority, this body which is God gifted is really a miracle to fathom. So this is the part which I treasure. The second part which I treasure is when we went into the wards, when we start communicating with the doctors and the patient. Doctors, I mean the teachers. So the teachers at those in that era were really, really revered. The amount of bedside guidance they gave us, the amount of habits they inculcated in us, and the methods that they taught us how to fish out the diagnosis how to keep our mind alert to find out the differences of presentation, and how to enter the psyche of the patient to find out what is lying behind the complaint that he comes with. So all these symptoms and all these insights of medicine are never taught in the books per se. They are shared by experienced teachers, and I am really grateful for that. So that is one of the second milestone you can say. And third, of course, is when you start practicing. It is a different ball game to altogether. And each patient is a teacher, and each patient is an experience. That's it. Thank you. Go ahead to the next.
Yes. So thank you, ma'am. So Kashish and Dia, can we know your views on the same too? Like, if you want to repeat it, like what has been your favorite part of your journey till now, and what can you consider as milestones?
Yeah, would you like to go ahead or
Kashish?
should I start? Okay, I'll just continue. So basically, for me, what basically, having age. So I didn't know, if it was good for me to pursue it because I wasn't good at my school science and math studies. So what basically was happening was that I was discouraged by my teachers, I guess. I was told by my teachers that I wasn't good enough to, pursue science, and I had to change schools. So I just went with the school which was actually offering me science, and I had to take a leap. I had to take a chance on myself. I had to take a role. So when I began my career, I knew basics of coding. I knew everything which was required, before even starting college. I started with that, and what basically kept me going was my interest in technology. I used to explore new things. I used to listen to my classes. I used to, stick with my routine schedule. I used to try new things. What currently people are running after is running after getting into top companies by doing whatever is required, right? They just do it whatever seniors are saying. But in my case, what happened with me was I was running towards technology. I was running towards my passion, and I was not caring a thing about, getting a good package, getting into a good company. All mattered to me was that I was creating a difference. So I think the great part, the transition in my career where I was, actually on a very low stage where people were actually, doubting me on my abilities, and I took a leap and I used to, say that I am capable of doing it, and I did that is kind of, a life-changing experience for me, and I think it is the biggest milestone I have achieved till now.
That's really nice to hear. And Dia, ma'am, can we know from you also?
Sure. So my answer is going to be a little bit different. So I had the subject called HCI when I was in college, which is basically human-computer interaction. The various ways in which we interact with technologies around us can be your computer or monitor. It can be machines, haptic gloves which you wear, or even your joystick with which you play your video games. So throughout the duration of this whole course, I designed a lot of app interfaces and web interfaces, and that's something which really got me interested in UI UX design. So this is basically to make the life of the user simpler. It is making the user interface simple so that it is more attractive for the user to operate it. It is appealing as well as it's very easily understandable by everyone. So UI is user interface and UX is user experience. So these two are the things which we focus on in UI UX design. Basically, whatever you make, it should adapt to your audience. I'll give you some examples. Like old people, they need large font in order to read whatever, and it should be the app or the website should be very easy. Like the navigation and everything should be very easy for them to use it easily. Then for kids, they prefer animations, let's say. They will love photos of their favorite cartoon characters and all. So to make it more attractive for them, a lot of animation is required. So UI UX design is something I'm doing at my current company, Ernst & Young as well. And I really enjoy designing interfaces. And I think a milestone for me would be to really get involved in that field, and because it's something I really enjoy. And yeah, that's about it.
Thank you. So, Haim, can you ask the next question?
Thank you so much. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So my next question is, have you ever faced any barriers being a woman? And if yes, how did you overcome them? I'd like to start with Kashish, ma'am.
So like my personal experience has been like it has been nice, it has been different, but when I think about it, and then when I think that if I have faced any difficulties going through it, I hadn't, but it was all in my head. What was happening was whenever I used to enter a technical conference or whenever I used to be a part of a discussion, it was me who was stopping myself. I was only constantly thinking that I'm the only girl in the room. Should I really speak my thoughts out? Should I go and interact with people because all of them are men, all of these are boys, and I don't see any girl over here? I used to be treated very differently sometimes. I used to be treated very normally sometimes. It was a kind of a very mixed emotions, I guess, because if you think, in a technical conference along with a lot of people around, suppose say 200 people, and there were almost like I think 5 to 6 girls in a conference, and interacting with them, talking to them is kind of very, very difficult, and being a part of the entire conference and getting involved with people is something that you have to overcome yourself. We as women have to step up. We as women have to think, we belong here. We have a voice. We have to raise it. We don't have to wait for somebody to give a chance to prove ourselves. I think we should make our own chances. So I think at the end of the day, I just think of it like I was stopping myself. There was nothing that was stopping me. There were no men or there was no industry that where I can't fit in. Like people can't tell me where I belong or where I don't belong. I used to have to I used to have a fear going out there, but I think it's gone now once I have, understood that. So I think we all as women need to understand the same thing, that we do belong and we do have a voice. So don't be afraid to be there and raise it.
Correct, correct. That's very insightful to know. All right. Dia ma'am, can I know your view on this?
So I absolutely agree with Kashish. I think the answer to this question is in the question itself. So are there any mental challenges which come with, being a woman in an industry? So I think it's all in the mind. It's a mental challenge, so it's all in the mind. We have to assure ourselves this, and we have to move on and move forward with confidence. Confidence is key, I think. So sometimes work in the consulting industry can get challenging. Sometimes we might doubt our abilities. We'll think, we can't do this or we can't achieve such a thing. But all we have to do is we just have to hold our heads high, take one step at a time. Like don't rush it through, take one step at a time, keep moving forward and trust the process. Even you will surprise yourself by what you can achieve out of this. So yeah, even when I was in college, I used to love conferences. It didn't play in my mind, I'm one of the only few women in it or anything of that sort. I enjoyed thoroughly. So yeah, I guess just be confident and assure yourself that this is my passion, this is what I want to do, and keep moving forward. And ultimately, like it will benefit you, and whatever you will achieve, that satisfaction which you get, you can't beat it. Like nothing else can beat it.
Of course, yeah. I'm sure of it. So Dr. Sujata Rao, what do you have? Do you
So
ever face
it is so nice to hear
being a woman?
from Kashish and Dia.
If yes, how did you
Their
overcome
thought
them?
process. The thought process is really, really pleased me because at such a young age to have this insight is very, very admirable. So yes, definitely mindset is the factor which allows you to overcome every hurdle or every block that you feel you perceive because all blocks are in our head. Now, if you, if I may share about our undergraduate or postgraduate training, it is not a very simple thing. It's a very grueling time hours that we spend in the wards. It is not humanly possible for anyone to, continuously work for 36 to 48 hours, and we have done that. And we have to be on our toes for any emergencies. And so that grooming, which was for so many years, 10 years, that stays with you for your life. So it gives you the energy or that is how we overcome our limitations or our mind blocks. So whatever it is now, whether it is in COVID pandemic where the mind block is how will I go out? So except for barring for that particular lockdowns, we do go out and we do practice. Why? Because it is after all the responsibilities that we've taken up. Once the mind block is conquered, I think every barrier can be broken. And the important barrier in this particular topic today is, if I may say, technology acceptance. In a field where medicine was more a bedside and a clinical approach, it has been invaded, so to say, by technology, a third person, which is part of our life now. It cannot be deleted from our field. And to accept that has taken a time, some time. It has not been an easy process to accept a third person in our interaction with the patient, but it is slowly being accepted. So this is one hurdle which I feel has taken some time to accept, but we are doing it. And of course, there has to be some caution employed, and we should do it. So that is how I see my barriers, so to say.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, ma'am. So my next question is that how much do you think that the industry has changed from the time you joined till now? So like if you have any examples of like how was the industry when you joined and how it is now? So can we start with Dia ma'am? Or yeah ma'am, Sujata ma'am, anyone of you can start.
Yeah, you can start. I really
Okay, sure. Sure. So I'm in the consulting industry, and I think that the industry has taken a 180-degree turn since I joined. So I joined the year when COVID started. It first came to India and the lockdown started. So now consulting is an industry where you have to be in constant touch with your client. So initially what happened was all the interactions used to be at the client side. All your team meetings, your whole team, your managers, everyone used to be along with you at the client side. Now, ever since COVID, our industry has adapted so much. Like it's all gone online due to the current situation. Now, meetings with team members, interacting with clients, everything else is being conducted online. In fact, I work with team members from different cities all across India, which was initially like restricted to a particular city. Now it's like all connected all through India, and most of my clients are also international clients, so they are all across the world. Now, digital technology has made sure that everyone is connected together so that our projects go on seamlessly. And we are also getting a lot of technology transformation projects as well now, because every other industry, wants to be digital, wants to integrate with technology now. So I think that the industry has changed a lot ever since I joined. All the industries have adapted. In fact, even right now, like I'm glad we are interacting virtually over Microsoft Teams. So that's one change which we have to adapt with COVID. So I think every industry has adapted with the current situation.
Glad to know that, ma'am.
Yes, I
So,
yeah.
Kashish, ma'am.
Yeah. So like I have been in the industry only for about like a few years only, and there's not much change that I've seen, but only one that was very noticeable for me was that, like we freshers, when we enter college, we are basically very clueless. We try and explore new things, we try different things, and we feel like, this is not where I belong, this is not where I like this part of this, and maybe I should try going with this. So we try a lot of different things. At least that is what I did. But now when I see the freshers coming into my college, they have already thought about this entire process. They're actually very, thoughtful about their entire career flow that they want to do within the next 5 years. They are, already started trying with various things, and they already are very, very much goal oriented, I should say. So I think the awareness amongst our juniors is that, like they want to excel in their lives, they want to achieve their goals, be it any field. If they want to be a musician, they'll go ahead and put their best foot forward. So I think something which was lacking within us was that we weren't, exploring stuff at an early stage, which our younger generation is kind of doing it very much at their early stages. So I think this is something that I've been noticing for a while. But as I said, I've been in the industry only for a few years and I don't know much about it and I haven't seen many differences. But I think this is something that I've noticed a lot of times.
Right. So now, Sujata ma'am.
Yeah, so the difference will be a vast difference because I traversed more than 25 years after being graduated and post-graduated. So what we saw earlier and what we see now, the stark reality is, as I told you, since a long time now, I've been telling that we have got a technology partner. Second is the smartphone which has come up, and third is the Dr. Google which has come up, and of course fourth is the pandemic. So these are the broad things which have actually changed the way you practice medicine. So let me first talk about technology. So earlier, what was a branch of medicine which was a routine division of specialties, skin, gynec, ortho, surgery, ENT, pediatrics, medicine. That has led to subspecialties or super specialties. Because based on the technology used, you have a super specialist. Like in ENT, we have only people who can do endoscopic sinus surgery, only people who do cochlear implant surgery, or those who are in surgical field will be doing laparoscopic surgery, so on and so forth. So that is how the technology innovation has brought about the change. And you have to adapt to it. So you have to learn, you have to get yourself trained in these things in spite of having done your course. And that requires investment of time, energy, and the second manner in which we have changed, I said about smartphone. So people have smartphone on their hands. They can you can easily take an appointment. You can easily put a Google review. So you can easily destroy somebody's reputation by your own perception. And that is what is the unfortunate part of technology that we have seen. Where a person comes to your clinic in emergency, talks about all things, do whatever you want, do everything you want, you do everything you want. Naturally, the patient has to invest his money because he has to take specific investigation. But what does he go and post on a public website is that this particular doctor has overcharged or he's fleecing or she's fleecing. It is very easy for a XYZ person to go and lambast or cry out foul on a digital media because he has access to it. Because he has an easy access to it without any verification, without any accountability. He can go and say anything and we have no recourse to even counter him, mind you. Why? Because these are all things which are dealt with on an individual level based on your smart applications of the app or the website or based on your marketing level. And this is what has destroyed many of people's psyche, the doctors, because it is very unfortunate to see that somebody whom you or I or somebody else's health has gone and said something very adversely. Third thing is about, I said, Dr. Google. Now, if you have any complaint, you are going to Google your symptoms. You are going to come armed with your literature. You are going to come with your diagnosis, with your differential diagnosis. And you are going to question the doctor. Why, doctor? Why this is not so? Why you're saying this is so? How confident are you? How do you approach this problem? How did you directly say that this is the diagnosis? Did you investigate? And if you investigate, why are you asking for so many investigations when you have got so many years of experience? Why can't you just tell me the diagnosis? It is so easily available in Google. See, these are the practical problems that we are facing today. Dr. Google is creating a lot of misconceptions. If you know how to use information, Dr. Google is very good. Unfortunately, there are a number of sites which are not verified. There are a number of information which is not verified, which is not very, very authentic. And that is where the problem occurs. So it is a matter of far too much and far too less precise. So if you are going to read with your intellect level, where you are not going to filter out the authentic versus the fake, you are going to come with some or the other misconception, and that is destroying the doctor-patient relationship. So this is about Dr. Google. And the fourth one, I said about pandemic. Now, what is the pandemic? Since 1 year, we are utilizing teleconsultation. So any person who cannot come, or we do not encourage the person to come to the clinic, we can consult online. Now there can be limitations, but video on and teleconsultation, audio consultations play a big part this year, where you can allay the anxiety, where you can address the symptoms per se immediately and take care of the patient online. Even COVID patients are being counseled and consulted online, because there are good wearable monitors that are available, the oximeter, the temperature, and if he is undergoing any test, blood reports, everything can be shared online. And that is enough for a monitoring of a non-complicated COVID patient. So it is a boon today that this telemedicine has allowed us to monitor in a era where social distancing and mask is so important. It has helped us to counter those problem areas. So this is the way I see the change that has occurred, and I just hope that it keeps the negative or the disadvantages of tech are dissolved as time goes, and the positive part of it develops further. And similarly, but we cannot expect the intellect of a patient to discern or to decide what is right and wrong also to be improved. We would really wish, but then given the population and given the literacy levels, you cannot expect miracles. You can only hope for better understanding. That's all.
Thank you, ma'am. AM, can you
Correct.
go to the
Thank you so
next
much, ma'am, for
question?
your views. So, in your experience, does being a woman in your profession come with extra mental challenges that you need to overcome? Dia ma'am, are you there?
I lost you for a while. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure. So, in your experience, does being a woman in your profession come with extra mental challenges that you need to overcome?
So again, mental challenges will all be in the mind. So I think if you develop a confident attitude, then you can overcome challenges very easily. So in the consulting industry, sometimes you can be, you can feel dominated over by men, because there are so many men and like few women. But again, like as long as you're passionate about what you're pursuing, and as long as you're like, you love what you do, you love your work, and the fact that it's interesting work, so you find your work interesting, so that will overcome all the other challenges which you might face. And there might be more mental barriers for women who are pursuing who are in their middle age, like who have kids at home to look after. For them it might be stressful at times, and balancing the whole work life balance and all might be challenging. So to overcome that, they just have to keep assuring themselves ki, like, what I'm doing is what I'm passionate about. And yeah, that I think plays a great role about overcoming the challenges which you have in your mind. So just moving forward and pursuing what you love, I think that helps to a great extent about overcoming the whole barrier situation.
So, Kashish ma'am, can we know your views on the same?
Yeah, I completely agree with Dia, like on the part where you actually, have it into your mind only, and you make up things that you don't belong here and everything like that. But there's this one thing which I have seen growing a lot of times here and there during these times, is that the software engineering domain, the entire industry, has actually started promoting women in technology entire thing. They have a lot of programs rolling up. They have a lot of diversity based hiring going on. They're actually feeling that the need of having a 50-50 gender ratio in their companies. So as I am working at American Express, I'm truly blessed, to be here, because in our company we actually have a lot of women panelists and a lot of women in the senior leadership roles as compared to the other companies in the top MNCs and the top fintech companies. And American Express actually, gives you a chance, as a woman. So, like I was hired to a women in diversity hiring challenge. I went through the entire process because I'm a woman. I had a different hiring contest as compared to those who come from the on-campus placement, because I was hired off campus. But obviously, like the difficulties, the same as that which men go through. But they have this special hiring contest only, because they feel that the company really needs women, need a second person's opinion who is actually a woman and who will put their point forward, and they'll have a good strong foundation in their company. So there's this a head in our company called Rutika Panesar. Her name is Rutika Panesar. I really look up to her only and only because she really feels like the company is actually on a different level when we have equal number of men and women. So, like the company which is into promoting women, who are actually supporting their women, be it as Dia said, that some women in their at some point of their life they feel that they need to take a break because of some issues in their family, because their family needs them for more time, and it is actually okay. You need to prioritize things, and you have different responsibilities as well. So if a company is actually supportive on that part, if a company is actually giving you the freedom to choose between the two, and come back to the company when you feel like, when you're okay with the restarting a career, and they help you and push you forward to do that, is something that we all really need in these times as well as the coming ages. Our young girls need to know that it is okay for them to choose their family for some time, and the industry will not put them away and discard them altogether from the careers. They'll actually be happy to welcome them again as and when they feel like, as and when the situation gets better.
Correct.
Thank you so much. We also have a question on this in the end, like about the work ratio, which you just explained, the 50-50 and 10-9, but we'll come to that. So, Sujata ma'am, can we know your views on the same?
Yeah, so I think we have already addressed about the barriers. I won't go into that. What you mean to ask is, I think, more to do with how women are, and what challenges they are facing in their respective field. I guess that is the aspect you want to address. So how I see it is that today, if you see any field, there is no dearth of women. So that shows that the participation of the women or the girl community is on a rise every year, multifold. There is no dearth of passion, there is no dearth of persistence, perseverance, and intelligence. Now, in addition to all this, there is a endowment of genetic factors that women is empowered persona where she can handle number of pressures. So that is a genetically endowed quality, and that only multiplies with the evolution. So how I see it is that be it male or female, if a person is ready to multitask and be reasonably well positioned, any challenge is acceptable, any challenges can be overcome, and a homemaker, female homemaker herself is very well poised. Today she's been recognized as the, if they decide they can overcome any challenge in any field. And a passion is what drives this type of personality. And I think I don't see that there are any anything which can stop a committed and a passionate person to accomplish any goal. That is how I would answer this question.
I'm sure. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. So our next question is, then what sparked your interest in the field which you're currently working in, and how did you build your profile over time? Like, how did you start, if you like into analytics? So how did you start studying it, and like what basically built your profile over time? So we can start with Kashish, ma'am, since you're into that field.
So basically, what helped me build my profile was, networking with people. So people say that, you should do internships to gain experience, to gain technical experience, which is one part of the story. But I believe the second part of the story is meeting new people, meeting new kinds of people at different companies, how they work, even at the senior positions, even at your junior positions, how they, behave, how they act in a, like corporate environment, and how things are actually going on. So as a student, you have been into a system which will be actually, teachers guiding you. You have to do this, you have to give this exam, and you clear it, and you go on to the next stage. There hasn't been any, different situations where you have to be a part of as compared to that which we have in corporate world. In the corporate world, what you actually see is that one thing that is constant while you're growing is you have to take a leap. You'll always have a learning curve, and there'll always be someone better than you, which you can't even, like make a difference at. You can't just start comparing yourself to other people. You have to stop doing that. You have to have your own path. You need to have your own roadmap, and you can just follow your dreams and, achieve. Everybody can achieve their own goals at certain point of their times, and you don't have to compare yourself to others. So when I say that the like how I shaped my career was basically through, networking with people. I went on and had good internships. Like I have done 4 internships till now during my college life, and I believe that is a lot to have in 4 years itself. And wherever I've been a part of, people have been really supportive. People have been helping me grow. And if I say to them, I don't know this kind of stuff, but I started learn it, and then I can implement this at your company and, do my entire work, they're happy with it. People actually like when you go and say to them, I have a learning curve, but I'm able to, take it forward. I'll be able to try, and if you give me a chance. So a chance is all that you basically need. So don't be afraid to go ahead and, put your best foot forward. Try out different things. Even if they don't work out, you'll know that this is not your area, and you have to try and explore a different one. So everybody will have a different roadmap. Don't start, following somebody else's path, because that is not yours. Right? You will not ever accomplish your dreams when somebody else has accomplished their dreams through their path. So I think you should have your own path. You should start discovering different things. And the most important thing which I feel is that there is no particular right time. There's no particular right age to do a certain thing. A lot of people come and ask me, hey, I'm in second year. Am I too late to start with this? I'm in fourth year. Am I too late to find out that I'm interested in this and not interested in this? Or am I too late to judge that I have taken a different role at a different company which I don't even like? So I need to switch. So I believe you have to take a leap anytime in your life. Just be confident. Just be uh, okay with what your heart and mind says, and just go with that. Take that leap forward and trust the process.
Thank you. So, Sujata ma'am, can we know your views on it?
I guess this question was more a technological. Can you please explain, because there's more of
No,
data
so
driven.
like what we I wanted to know is that since you've written a lot of academic papers and you've like how did you start your journey? Like how did you know कि, yeah, this is the thing that I want to do, and this is how I like your total learnings from it. Like how did you overall build your profile? So that was the main purpose. So if like you've written academic papers, so how did you build with it?
I have written few papers. I have not written a majority because I'm in private practice. I'm not in a attached as a full time. About publication, yes. No, the way I see my build up of practice or my just explain. It is a matter of just building on your experience, how patient mouth to mouth, you know, if you're talking about private practice, it is a different ball game altogether. It is a patient's feedback which increases your practice. It is the patient's faith in you and trust in you which increases your reputation. And once you subsequently maintain that respect. So how do we do that is by every doctor you encounter goes by particular protocols which have been set during their education. It is not particularly they fancy that. It is more to do with the basic and a good clinical judgment takes precedence over every other monetary or you know what do you say glam patient and how my actions are not going to help the patient. So accordingly, the doctor acts for every patient, whether it is a rich or a poor patient. Now, I decided well earlier in my career that I would not have a nursing establishment because there are a lot of practical difficulties to maintain it in this market-driven industry. And the number of knee-jerk regulations that we are subject to, we are not given the similar type of, you may say SOPs or concessions or cess as it is given to any other small scale industry. It is not considered an industry at all. Though in your technological language, healthcare industry boom is predicted and healthcare is the best financial prospects, all that doesn't percolate down to the actual process of medical practice. So that is to burst your bubble that healthcare industry boom is only for the corporate industry where the healthcare establishments are there. It doesn't percolate to the individual doctor who's running a small nursing home. So this is how I number of patients, different ways of treating different absolutely huge range spectrum of diseases, and that increases when you are steadily practicing for many years. So that is how we build our repertoire of experiences and the way we practice. That is, yeah, I don't know. This question has.
Him, can you please answer? I have a lag in the this thing.
Same.
But
Here.
I think, yeah, the question you. Yeah. So, Dia ma'am, can we know your views on the same? Like, how did you build your profile? How do you work on yourself throughout this journey?
Sure. So the tech industry, it's all about coming up with creative solutions to various problems, and there's a lot of problem solving which is involved. So as a kid, I've always loved challenges, and I've loved areas where creative thinking is required, where you're allowed to think laterally, and you come up with creative solutions to various problems. So naturally, I've always been, more inclined towards the tech industry. And why are we talking about women in tech? We should be talking about people in tech. So I thought, why not change this mindset of people? Women in tech is like, a completely different ball game. Like, so yeah, I thought if men can do it, why not women? So that's what, inclined me towards the tech industry. And also the best part about this is, work will never get boring. So there's always something new to learn because tech is constantly evolving. So you always have something different to do, something new to learn, and you have to keep yourself updated with whatever's going on around. So I'll tell you the key takeaways which I got from working and building relations in the tech industry. So I think first and foremost, like Kashish said, there's always a learning curve. So I feel you're never the smartest person in the room. There's always someone who will be smarter than you, more efficient than you in some way or the other. So you have to be willing to learn. You have to be willing to accept challenges. You have to get out of your comfort zone, go there and be a go-getter. Like actually do whatever you aspire for. Go for it. Then also while having the confidence to do certain things and achieve certain things, you also need a lot of humility. So be proud of what you do, but always be humble. Like never come off as showing arrogance, or never try to underestimate anyone, because appearances can be deceptive. Always be humble. And also networking is very important in the industry. Like always reach out to people, keep networking, and it will help you in your career as well. So I think these are the key takeaways in my learning journey in the tech industry.
Thank you so much, Dia ma'am. And I totally agree with you. It shouldn't be women in tech. It should be people in tech. I do agree. So, all right. So, like I've noticed, more than half of the top Indian companies have a male to female ratio of 10:1, or sometimes even worse. So, why do you think it is important for more women to join the tech industry? I'd like to go with Dr. Sujata first.
As I said,
Sujata ma'am, are you
women
here?
are anyway moving forward. You can hear me or no?
Yeah, I can hear
Am
you.
I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
So as we said, we all agree that there are more and more number of females who are opting for every industry, be it technology or any other. But of course, it is a tech generation today, so you will see more in the technology. Uh, you are asking me how do you view this aspect, or what is your question about?
Yeah, like I've
I'm sorry.
noticed that in most of the like big companies, Indian companies, the male to female ratio is 10:1. So I'm asking, why do you think it's important that more women join these industries where the ratio is low as of now?
Why do I think that they join this industry? Like, why do you want to ask me is whether I agree with it or I'm sorry, I'm not getting your question.
No, like currently, statistically, in most of the big companies, the male to female ratio is 10:1.
So
So
how is it getting-
my question is that why do you think it's important for more
correct,
women
correct.
to
I
join?
agree.
Huh, yeah.
Okay. Fine. So it is still 10 to 1 you're saying, and I'm sorry, I thought it is equivalent. I thought there are more number of girls who are joining now in all the fields, whether it is technological or otherwise. So if that is so, I think it is also because exams per se, which are dissuading a number of people to opt for greener pastures or something which is doable rather than doing something which is heavily driven by the exam industry or the entrance industry. So if that is facilitated, probably more number of people getting it at a particular place, because the entrance exam does not ensure you will get it in a place of your choice. That restriction falls back on the family, where they would not send to any small or any random place. The third limitation, so if at all these limitations are overcome, because I do not see a dearth of uh, choice or a dearth of opting out for a technology. Given a chance, every person would opt for a technology driven are less, or
Correct.
the vacancies which are available at a particular point of time are less. The number of colleges are also more, but then it also again comes down to the fact that the student always tries to filter out top universities and does not want to go to a university or to a college which is not having a very good backup demanding to them. So these are all compromises which are happening not because of the lack of choice. It is not because of that, but more due to the circumstances. And if these are improved, then I don't see any reason why you will not have a 50-50% male-female ratio in even the technologically driven professions.
Right. Thank you. Kashish ma'am, what's your view on this? Why do you think it's important for more women to join the industry?
I completely agree with Dr. Sujata, on the point where she said that, people want to get into top colleges and they try and filter it out, on the basis of what they are getting and what other people are getting. So it all comes down to the merit basis, where you actually get into. So if the 10:1 ratio is there, it must be due to the merit basis. What I feel, why women should join the tech industry is that we as females, when we are brought up in this, in India especially, we are actually not, told to explore what engineering is. Go and sit with a girl child at your home, she'll actually have a whole plethora of doll houses, doctor sets and everything, whereas compared to that of boys, they actually, dealing with the mechanical toys, they'll have mechanics, they'll have Hot Wheels, they'll have all these stuff. So on the foundation itself, we are trying to segregate women from the engineering domain. We don't have. I saw one video of Debbie Sterling. She's a TEDx talk giver, and she almost talked about this entire thing that we don't have enough toys, engineering toys for women to get into engineering, to be interested into that. So, I think the foundations are itself in the wrong direction. So, like if I sit with my 6-year-old sister, she is not even interested in playing video games. She's not interested in knowing how it actually works. So, whereas somebody who's at her age, a boy, he might be interested in knowing how this website is made or how to hack this particular game or how to actually explore the computer stuff. So I had a lot of brothers growing up when I was a little, and they used to, help me play different kinds of video games. They helped me try and explore kinds of things. So I was into computers at that time. But if I didn't have them, I wouldn't know how this computer works, what that CPU does, and I would just be busy playing with my girl toys. All right. So I think the entire thing that we have from their basics is kind of at fault. So when we look at, when I step into the industry and I see 10:1 ratio, I am the one to be blamed that I have not helped my sisters enough to explore different kinds of things. What if my sister, who is taking on to be a fashion model, was actually into engineering? If I told her how engineering is, what engineering is, and she could actually build and create stuff rather than just doing what she's doing. It's not that what she's doing is wrong, what she's doing is not good enough. I just feel that people should actually have a knowledge of that domain so that they have the full clarity, whether they want to go into that or not. I think a lot of girls are missing that. So if we come to the current time that these girls haven't had the foundation of engineering from the basics, but they still, went ahead after their class 12th and they took on engineering roles. And now they want to get into the industry. So we really need to push these women up. We really need to get these women into these industries, even if it is a small number of women, so as to encourage these smaller, younger children that, you can also be there. So when I am an engineer now, I am into the tech industry. My little sisters, I have 6 sisters, cousin sisters, and all of them look up to me. They all ask, how are you building this app? Why do you have this app on your phone? We can't have this because it is yours and you have coded it. So how do I code it? When I tell them, you have this mechanics game and you can, build anything, you can create your own car, you can have this entire motor, it will work. You can build it your own way. This is your car. So they're actually into that. They don't want to play with those dolls and stuff. So I think you have to give them a chance. You have to show it to them, this is another field where you can excel. This is where you also can belong. And it's not something that you can't be a part of. You have to go and try. And one thing that is worth mentioning is the fact that industries are also very welcoming. I have seen people, like I'll be joining Microsoft soon, and I've seen a lot of people who were in the HR field But when they joined Microsoft and when they saw the level of problems that people at Microsoft are solving, and they wanted to join as a technical consultant, they wanted to join as a technical, engineer, support engineering roles, Microsoft actually helped them transition from the HR roles to the technical roles. So I think companies are also moving forward. They're also accepting that people can have different kinds of, interest areas, and they all need to explore these kinds of, hidden gems in them. So I think give them a chance and see what it actually goes. We don't need a 5:5 ratio. We don't need a 1:1 ratio in the industry, but we need to have a very much of a clarity, and we have to give them a chance to actually think, whether you belong there or not.
Correct. Correct. I agree with you. Thank you so much, ma'am. So, Diya ma'am, what's your view on this?
So I think it's a very deep question and lovely answers, lovely viewpoints given by Dr. Sujata and Kashish. So I feel that there's this cliche, in our country, ki like women should be doctors and men should be engineers. So it's very important to get rid of this, this belief that only like it has to be according to this particular system. I feel it's extremely, important for women also to join the tech industry, and not just to join, to head the industry as well, to head their respective departments. Very few women actually reach that top level in their industry. So I feel it's very important to, that it happens now. It's happening now, and I hope that it slowly and gradually becomes a more common thing. So I try to think, of the root cause of why this happens. And, I think at a very young age, girls are developing this mental block. It's in their head that they are bad at maths and science. And this kind of plays on psychologically. Like I remember Kashish mentioned also in this panel, her teacher pointed out that she was bad at math and science, and that's why she had to leave her school. I think this is very unfair. I mean, this shouldn't be done. Girls should be encouraged to pursue science and math. And I think, to do this now, the school curriculum, they should ensure that there are fun science activities, fun maths projects in their curriculum. It should evoke, interest from that young age, where there's no cliche, girls should play with dolls and boys should play with Hot Wheels and video games, etc. So the curriculum itself should involve, fun projects to evoke interest of everyone. Rather than just giving out theoretical knowledge, it should actually be demonstrated practically. And I'm sure that like lots of kids will be interested, not just boys, but even girls. Like I think everyone will be interested in that. So there's this study, which showed that before a math or science exam, few females and males were made to tick on a checkbox their gender, and it was like proof that before giving the test, before actually, if the checkbox thing had not been included, the women performed better than after taking their gender. So it's a mental block in the head, which I think shouldn't be the case. So this should start right from school. And also growing up, again, that cliche ki women should be doctors and men should be engineers, that shouldn't be the case. Like we shouldn't create this in our country. You should just go with your passion, I believe. And even after reaching a middle age, a lot of women will drop out of jobs owing to pregnancies, and then they want to take care of their kids, and they never really get back into that group. So I think the company should also be flexible and allow the not just the woman but also the husband flexible hours and work from home, especially in the tech industry, where everything can be done online. There should be flexible hours and work from home, so that even the wife gets an extra pair of helping hands with the kid. So that will encourage both the man and the woman to do their work more passionately, because they're getting so much flexibility. It will encourage them to work more. It will encourage them to work harder than what they usually do. And apart from this, I feel like even at a college level and above, there should be more programs and competitions specifically designed for women, like hackathons, women entrepreneurship programs. All these should be inculcated to push women up to that level. It should like evoke the interest of the women in our country and motivate them to pursue a hobby or a career in the tech industry. So I feel that also plays an important role in promoting women in tech.
Right. I totally agree. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Can I add something if you permit me?
Sure, ma'am. Yeah.
Yes, sure.
I heard both Diya and Kashish very interesting views. So my take is this, that gender bias not of course nonetheless with our country, but it is slowly dissolving. But irrespective interesting future can be perceived by any parent, first of all. For a parent to perceive it is more important in our country because it also involves the family support which a student should be getting. Whether to appear for the entrance exam, it starts with that, whether to be coached and whether to pay for the fees. So all these three things are family driven. They are not an individually driven decision. And unless I see that level playing field emerging, like a level playing field in this particular aspect would be that literacy level, if they go up in every state, only then a family is motivated to even think about opting for a particular career. See, today we have prejudices which are running into families which are creating decisions for a particular student. So whether or not a person wants, a lady, a girl wants to pursue a technological dream, she may not be given that support or she may not be having that economic backup. All these things matter. So I may want technology to succeed. Unless the state and the country decides to back up these particular students or families, only then that dream will be achieved. See, today in the pandemic, if you see basic hygiene, personal hygiene levels, which have come into forefront. Do you think spitting in public was acceptable earlier? Do you think hand washing was not being said earlier? Do you think our breath or our cough is infective was not known? All these things were known. Ethiopian habits that have been established today. It was always there, but it was never being used because it was taken for a, it was taken for granted that yes, of course you do it, but it is not so important. Only because of this pandemic and this coronavirus fear that has inculcated into everybody's side, that now they have accepted these behaviors, whether it is hand washing, whether it is not coughing onto somebody or not spitting. Even today you will see people spitting on the ground. Can you stop them? No. So the reason I'm bringing out these habits are only to say that if we do not take care of the basics, the macro decisions will suffer. Yeah. And the dream will be achieved in that proportion. That's it. That is all I wanted to.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So, coming to our last question, we would like to ask what piece of final advice or what piece of advice would you like to give all the young girls, all the 17 plus girls who are starting their undergrad or who are just like starting to think about going into various fields, whatever field they like. So, what piece of advice do you give to all the young girls who will start their career? So, any one of you can start with it. Sujata ma'am?
Okay, I thought let the young girls say, let them start. Dia and Koshi.
Sure.
So should I go forward then?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So again, lovely question. So I think the key is to believe in yourself and just trust the process. Just take one step at a time and you will get there. It is so important to believe in yourself, If you love tech and you want to make a change, then just don't worry about your gender. That's like a mental block. Don't think that you're a girl or, you're a boy or anything. Just be focused, be strong, and just go get what you love. Now the second, there's one more aspect. So you can also be a woman on tech without knowing how to code. So coding is not required at all. There are so many tools available nowadays, like WordPress to build websites or Marvel to build applications, mobile application interface, which is basically what UI UX design actually is. Or, if you're good at sales or marketing or anything of that sort, then you can, just team up with a techie and start your own startup or your own business. So technology isn't just about coding, it's much more than that. I'll give another example as well. So in one of my college committees, Enactus, I was in Enactus MP STM. So this serves to uplift the lives of the underprivileged. So I got the opportunity to do some research and development and put together a whole low-cost machine for the slum dwellers. So it was a portable mechanical washing machine which could fit into the slums. So we had to do a lot of research based on it, the drainage, everything of that sort, and a lot of technology and smart thinking and everything was required. And it took like a few months, and we developed this machine, which was low cost and could be easily used by the slum dwellers to wash their own clothes. So what this did was this not only saved water, which is required in hand washing, but it also reduces the effort. So we just rotate the crank and the machine works that way. And also, most importantly, this also promotes gender equality, because why should only women do the washing of the clothes? If a system as simple as that is developed, even the men can stay at home and work, help out their wives. Like even they can operate the system. It's that easy. So again, technology isn't just computer science, coding, everything. It can be anything. It can be your own inventions or your own creations. So don't worry about, don't put a block in your head that technology is just about coding. So that's not necessary at all. And lastly, I would like to say get out of your comfort zone. It's very important to do that. Take up more challenges, get out of your comfort zone. You will not know if you like technology or if you like a particular project if you don't actually get into it, get involved, and actually achieve whatever your milestones are. And you will get a lot of, trust me, you'll get a lot of satisfaction when you actually reach the end goal. It's going to be totally worth it at the end. So just go for it. Just follow your heart, go for it, and nothing is going to stop you from in the tech field. And just go for it.
Thank you so much. Kashish ma'am, can we know your view?
I absolutely agree with Dia, and I'm sure if whatever Dr. Sujata also covers in this particular domain, I'll be absolutely agreeing with both of them. Because what we really need is you all to at least discover your passions, to start exploring new things. All right, we don't really, again, as Dia said, we don't need to be good coders to enter into the technical field. You just need to be somebody who brings your dreams into reality. So basically, what actually I would like to say to all of you is, whatever happens, like whatever this family situation is, whatever the condition, wherever you have been brought up, just know that you are capable of achieving those goals if you work hard, if you try and work in certain goal, and you try and overcome all these difficulties. Everything doesn't come very easy to you. There will be some hurdles in your way. There were some hurdles in our paths as well. We also face some of the difficulties which might not be similar to that of yours, but we all have hurdles in our own lives, and even boys have them. So not for women in tech, even boys will have these hurdles in their lives. So I think we all as people should actually start supporting other people that we see. We should start and basically accept other people's dream as well. Whatever they're dreaming, we should not look up to them, or we should not look down to them in whatever field they're going into. Just let them be, just let them follow their hearts and try various kinds of things. So when we see somebody who's a 35-year-old man or 35-year-old woman, we are we have it in our head that they should have their life all sorted out, they should have a good career, they should have a good job, they should have earn well, they should have a family set up for them. But that's actually not the case for everybody. Some people start exploring their own interests even at that age. So I again think you should never stop believing in yourself. Just go forward, put your best foot forward, try in whatever situation you are. Like in my case, I was not supported by my school, so I had to change schools. All right, I had to take a leap forward. What if I didn't succeed? What if I didn't have joined engineering, and what if I didn't get into a good college? I would have also tried a different kind of a domain, but because I had a passion for tech, I would have been somewhere related to tech, not coding, not a software engineer maybe, but I would have been somewhere related to tech because I had something for tech in my heart. So again, it comes down to your passion, it comes down to your interest. So don't stop following that, and just keep in mind that you're able to, you're capable of achieving everything you ever dream of. That's it.
Thank you so much. And finally, Sujata ma'am, can we know your views and your advice to the young girls?
Very well expressed by both Kashish and Dia. What I would like to say is this. sky is the limit today for your generation or 17 plus generation. Today, I think every child is having a technology explosion onto their face. They are introduced to the screen first and foremost rather than their peers or their games or their physical activities. It is more about the activities on the screen because the app is what they see earlier in life. Believe me, a preschool kid, if they come to a clinic, also the parent has to show them some or the other music video for them to cooperate with us. So that is the amount of technology in your face for the child. So I would not say that they are not, having technology savvy mindset. They are introduced to it from the very early in their life. Whether or not they take it first and foremost is their passion. What is their sense of passion in that particular field that they are choosing, and how much innate or how much of uh, natural affection or natural bent of mind they have to a particular field of education. Unless they have that, they are not going to excel, or they are not going to even explore the intricacies of that particular profession. They have to have some interest in that field. It is not a cattle herd type of decision making because everybody is going towards engineering or everybody is going towards medicine, because that was the thing beforehand, that there were only three major professions: medicine, engineering, and law, which has changed now, which is for a good, that people are exploring every profession today after 12. There is no dearth of professions for them to choose, and they are making a success out of it. So technology has touched every person's life today. So I would say much more than the professional level of degree. I would say that they have to choose something which they are at ease with, which they are comfortable with. But at the same time, they should not hesitate to explore it to the best of their abilities. And for that, they need focusing. They need a focused mind and not a reviewed mind. It is not that because my friend has taken up this profession, I'm supposed to excel in it. That should not guide you. And that is the only limitation I feel in a particular student's life today, because it is a peer driven industry. It is a coaching industry which has driven the decision of a particular profession. It is supposed to be your industry driven. So please remember that there are few uh, what do you say? Uh, Somebody said follow your heart. That is so true, because what you know with your heart is always going to stay forever, and it is not going to be influenced by anything else in your life. Because whatever hurdles come, you have to be self motivated. You have to beliefs to overcome these hurdles and make a success out of it. You can do it because you have the best of intelligence available today on the social media. You have the best of the sources available to make or to create your own intellect. You have to just read. You have to gather your knowledge. You have to gather your information and find your ways. I do. So sky is the limit, but have faith in yourself and be sure, be convinced about, do not stop. That is all I would say. Thank you. Thanks a lot for the invitation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you,
Thank you
Dia
so
ma'am,
much, ma'am.
and also Dr. Sujata. It was really a wonderful experience talking to you. We also have a chairperson, Naveen, to give a formal vote of thanks. So, Naveen.
Thanks, Nirali, for that introduction. It was really insightful experience for me. I learned a lot of it. Whether it be Sujata ma'am's absolutely lovely theory of stigma and the concept of people having those rules back but not following them, perhaps. Kashish, absolutely great theory of grassroots level problems, whether it be the toy theory, which I love basically because it is something about aspirational projections. A student, be it a male or a female, has to have the concept of freedom and as well as the concept of free ideology rather than being the doll concept and the Hot Wheels concept. And the Dia's, of course, the best explanation possible for technology, for diverse confidence, and the change, of course, from the woman to the people in technology. That is absolutely wonderful. But as we know, every good time comes to an end. It is ephemeral. So basically, our time is also here, ends with this webinar. Through this opportunity of thanking our esteemed guests, I would like to thank all the connoisseurs for their insightful knowledge and taking us in the deep ride of world of technology and empowerment. The knowledge we gain from you is irreplaceable, whether it is Dr. Sujata sharing her insights in the domain of medicine, Ms. Kashish with the knowledge in the data science and big analytics domain, or Ms. Dia having a guiding light for all the youth out there. I am sure all the participants have taken note of your suggestions and will be discussing within their groups and colleges the action that needs to be initiated at their level. It was truly a pleasure learning from all of you, ma'am. Thank you once again for your valuable time. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting us. Thank you.
Thank you. All my best wishes.
Thank you. It was a lovely session.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.